Hello, Baz at GotAUkulele again, with another instrument review coming up. And quite an interesting one. You may have come to this video from reading the written review, but if not, the link is on the start of the video. This is a concert scale ukulele by a company called Korala, a UK-based company. This is an imported Far Eastern instrument, but what makes this quite different to most ukuleles on the market is it is completely, with the exception of the tuners, made of plastic, injection molded ABS plastic. Plastic ukuleles are not all that new. There are a couple on the market, the Outdoor Uke and the Flea and the Flukes, to name a couple. So this is a new one to the market, but they're not that, it's not a brand new idea, and in fact, I'm wearing a TV Power Uke t-shirt just to emphasise the point. This is an old vintage uke from the 40s and 50s that collectors quite like, made from plastic. So here we are. As I say, all solid plastic, standard concert scale and concert shape with a double bout. We have slightly curved back, as you can see, and the sides, back, neck, and back of the headstock are all one single piece of moulded plastic. And then on top of that we have a plastic top, a plastic fingerboard with integral nut is laid on top of the plastic, and there is a plastic facing piece that you can just about see put on top of the headstock. The bridge is not moulded into the top like it is on the Outdoor, and it's actually a standard sort of bridge, but it's also made of plastic. With a white plastic saddle that can be adjusted, which is a positive compared to the Outdoor and the Flea, which can't. It's not a tie bar bridge. It's well, I suppose it's kind of a tie bar bridge. They're not notches to hook these in, but you basically put the string through, tie a knot in one end, and stop them coming out. Inside we have the Korala logo. You're not going to be able to see on this video. Maybe you will. No, you won't. We've got some fan bracing running from the sound hole down to give the strength to the top in here, and on the back we have a couple of braces, one about here, one about here, giving strength to that. Fairly standard neck profile, a little bit shallow for my liking, fairly standard width. The nut is set up perfectly, so we've got no intonation issues or strings going sharp at these lower frets. But I think the action is too high here, down at so the saddle needs to come down, although more on that later. The fingerboard may confuse you. This is one piece of plastic. The frets are plastic and they are moulded and made all part of the same piece. Now that means total accuracy, because these come out of the mould in the same place every time. There are no frets to be cut and put in place, so it should be an accurate instrument. We've got fret markers inlaid in white plastic, which are kind of glued into little holes in the fingerboard. The headstock, I think, looks too narrow. I mean, if you look at the angle of these strings running here, that's accentuated because of the narrowness, because if this was a wider headstock, these strings would come more on a straight line. Yeah, it looks kind of cool. I like the top, and I love the Korala logo, which is screen printed on, but I think I just wanted a bit wider. One point that just occurred to me now as I'm making this video: if you wanted to swap these tuners for friction pegs, I don't think there's enough room to get the friction pegs to turn next to each other, so I think you're stuck with what you've got. Tuning itself, these are pretty cheap, unbranded geared tuners, but they work fine. Cream coloured buttons, they're not too big. I don't really have major gripe with them. They're not brilliant, but they're not awful either. Here you can see one of the moulding points from the injection moulding, with the other being in the centre of the back. And that's pretty much it, really. There's not a lot more to say. This is a plastic uke. Does that make it a toy? Well, I think that kind of depends on how it sounds and how it plays. As I say, you've got a good action there at the nut, a very high action, I think, there at the lower frets. But actually, when I started to inspect it a little more, whilst I can take that saddle down, can you see how the saddle is bowing slightly into the top? And this is one of my concerns about it. The strength of this neck compared to, say, the outdoor ukulele or the wooden neck on the flea needs work. I think they need to put something inside this hollow neck, some bracing, for the simple reason it can move. So if I put not a lot of pressure here, and strum, and you hear it going sharp, and likewise pushing it the other way. So it's a plastic ukulele with a whammy bar in the neck, which is, yeah, okay. Actually, in play, if you play with a light touch, which is a struggle for some beginners, I've not actually found that moving neck, as wrong as it is causing me too much of a problem, to be perfectly honest. It plays quite nicely, and that's what I like about it. You know, it's got a pretty nice tone, far nicer than the outdoor ukulele, which I've played a couple of times now and really don't enjoy. You know, it's got bags of volume. Aquila strings, I find they boom and make it bark a little bit. I'm not a fan of Aquila strings. I think they generate too much power. Bearing in mind this is a thin, echoey chamber, I don't think they help with that sound. That said, it's got a really nice sound. It's got bags of volume. It's got its own tone, not masses of sustain, but that's where I really come to the point that this is £30, £30. So that's on a par with things like the Korala Dolphin, entry-level Mahalos. Readers of the GotAUkulele blog will know that I really do like the Korala Dolphin, but do you know what? I think this may be possibly a Korala killer. My only real gripe with it, apart from that bendy neck, is the fact that it's in a concert scale. If this is going to be a travel ukulele, a take anywhere, throw it in your bag, why make it in a concert scale? Why not make a soprano? I think if they made a soprano, they've got a perfect little thing. So if anyone who scoffs, I think the sound of it's really nice. And to compare it, my extremely road-worn, beloved Fluke, which costs about 5 or 6 times the price of the Korala. Plastic back and sides, plastic fingerboard, but actually I can't actually notice that much difference in the sound. This is a little more rounded. That has a few more sort of harmonics going on. This is a little bit more one-dimensional, but price, you know, this is a fortune compared to the Korala. I don't think you can really go wrong with this. As a beginner, why not? 30 quid. You are going to get an instrument that is, because of the way it's built, you've got no intonation issues, really. There's no setup required. It's going to come accurate. You know, the bridge isn't going to be hanging off. There aren't going to be gaps between the top and the body or bad finish. It's the same finish all over. But even if you're a seasoned player, £30 probably shouldn't be something that would scare you, just to give it a go and stick it in the back of the car, which is exactly what I'm going to do with this one. Some issues, but 30 quid, you know, this comes highly recommended.